Hey everybody, Mark Herman, aka LA Bengals fan on most of the major platforms, and I'm joined here as always with my partner in crime, Sam Snyder from Primetime Sports Talk, and I will let him introduce a very special guest that we have today. Why don't you take it away, Sam?
We're really excited to have John Sheeran on, who is a writer and editor of Cincy Jungle. So proud to have him on here. John, thanks for joining us.
Hey, it's about time I was on here. I've been making the rounds on all the Bengals shows, and I felt like I was missing one. So
Yeah. Hey, well,
now we're representing the West Coast.
well, and you're welcome back whenever you want. We and I have had the pleasure of interviewing Max Montoya together, and so we've been on shows together. And I know Sam's done a show with you, so it's great to have you on here. We're going to preview the Week 15 game against the Denver Broncos coming up this week. This is a critical game. We'll do it out like we always do. We'll go ahead and touch on some news. Then we're going to talk about the things we're not feeling good about, the things we're feeling good about, and then we'll jump into predictions. So few bits of Bengal news I have, and then you guys can throw yours in. Obviously, Darius Phillips went on IR. I didn't want him on IR. I mean, I didn't want the guy hurt, but I'm glad he's not back there returning punts for us anymore this season.
Right.
Bengals we put Reef on IR today, so that means he misses the next 3 weeks. So that wasn't good news. And then we got hit, not as hard as some of these teams, but Awuzie is in the COVID protocol as of today. So none of that was real good news. So
I think the Reef thing hurts, and I think we'll get into that when we preview the game further. But Awuzie missing the game is gosh, that really hurts. That really hurts. So
yeah. John, you got anything you want to throw in there?
Yeah, it's like he's on COVID reserve right now. He's not confirmed to miss the game just yet. I think so long as he's vaccinated and he's asymptomatic, he needs 2 negative tests 24 hours apart starting today. So he could feasibly be cleared by Saturday, and I think that's probably when they would fly out to Denver. So there's still hope that he plays, but I think as Sam was saying, like it's probably assumed that he's not going to play, and that's probably good news for Trey Waynes, who is back practicing with the team. He did not play last week, but if there was a time for him to come back, it would be when Awuzie could not play. So
it'd be right now.
Yeah. You know what? And if he comes back and does anything, it's like time to earn your money. I mean, they paid him a tidy sum for the last season plus, and we haven't gotten. I don't want to say any little bang for our buck. We've got no bang for our buck. So if Wayans wants to show up, now would be a great time. We'd welcome you to the 2021 season. Do we have any news? I haven't heard anything about Logan Wilson. Now, I know he didn't practice, but they don't have him listed as out. John, have you heard anything? Is there any chance we see Wilson this week?
No. So Zach Taylor on Wednesday said that Wilson will not play this week, but he has a chance to practice and maybe play next week. So this would be his second game that he's missed, and So since he wasn't put on IR, there was the assumption that he could potentially return within 3 weeks. So there's a chance that he plays next week. He will not play this week, which is unfortunate because I believe growing up in Wyoming, he was a Broncos fan. So he's going to miss the chance to play his childhood team growing up.
Yeah.
No. And what about Marcus Bailey? Any chance we get him back?
No.
So he was limited. He's been limited, I think, both practices today. Yes. So it could be like a game time decision maybe.
Okay. Well, listen. We're thin at linebacker, and they're going to attack that. So we'll get into that in the preview. But, looking for some positive news in the linebacking core. Let's jump in, and we'll talk about the things we're not feeling good about going into this week. Coming out of the Raider game, I felt pretty good about where we were at and how we've been playing. And now we followed this up with literally giving away 2 games. I mean, the mix and fumble, I think, in the Charger game, we were on the verge of, I think, coming back and winning that. And then last week, getting conservative in overtime and not putting the game away, not to mention the Phillips punts. It's just been frustrating the last 2 weeks. We're going into this game, and one of the things I'm not feeling good about is how undisciplined this team is. The Von Bell, taunting, call that turned out to be right before half, cost us points. That's something that's really troubling me going into this game. What do you guys have?
Well, I think. Do you want my broken record take of the week, Mark?
Sure. It's the youngest team in the fourth youngest team in
It's
the
the
NFL.
fourth youngest team in the NFL, and frankly, we didn't even expect them to have 7 wins at this point. So we're already doing okay, but when you get a little hope, you get excited. So that's just us as fans. But yeah, it is undisciplined, and it's undisciplined because they are young guys. They're young guys. So God, it's frustrating because you're like, we want to win it all, but you also have to pull back a little bit and recognize where you're at, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but
No, I think it makes a lot of sense, Sam. My co-host on D&H Sports, Daddy McDuke, the puppet there, he brought up a good point actually earlier this week. He kind of compared this team to like young NBA players where they like see a wide open layup and their feet start moving faster than their minds and they end up blowing it. I think it's because this team has experienced success and the ability to compete against top teams really early in the year. And they got a taste of, okay, we've kind of arrived a lot quicker than a lot of people and analysts have pegged us to do so. Like, we're capable of this stuff. It's just about consistently putting that performance on the field week in and week out that's been an issue for them. But I think the fact that they know that they're capable of doing it, sometimes they think a little bit too fast sometimes, and that leads to dropped interceptions. It leads to getting too excited in the moment. It leads to just other mistakes that have really kind of just beat themselves. They've been shooting themselves in the foot, and you can't really do that against top teams.
No, I feel like there's 3 games we just gift wrapped, on by stuff we did ourselves, particularly the last 2. But you can go back to the Chicago game. You can go back to the Packer game where we had opportunities, and obviously the Jet game where we were up 11 points in the fourth quarter and ended up not winning that game. So it's been tough. Javante Williams.
I think it's important. I think it's important for this team, as young as they are, to keep the chip on their shoulder. And just like John was just saying, once you take that chip off your shoulder and you start believing what people are saying about you, that's a problem. So it's important to keep that chip there.
Yeah, we've talked about on our show. We talked about how this team, as soon as they're anointed, and they've arrived by the press and the mainstream media, that's the next week when we blow it. I mean, right after Baltimore, we were kind of crowned. Oh my gosh, this team's could win the North, and then the next week we blow it against the Jets. So it seems like we play better. It's hard to say we play better from behind sometimes, or when we're discounted. So Javante Williams, I've watched him. I actually have to play. I'm in the fantasy playoffs, week 1 this week, and I'm playing the team that has Javante Williams, and he's a beast. I mean, the guy's a beast, and we're thin at linebacker, so that concerns me. That's a big concern of mine going into this game. So
I think he missed practice today because he was dealing with a knee injury that was limiting him on Wednesday, and I think he missed practice today. So I don't know if he's gonna be like a game time decision or whatnot, but I agree with Mark. That just him forcing a lot of missed tackles. Their interior offensive line with Cushenberry, Reisner, and Miners, they've been playing really well of late. If Williams plays and the Broncos have any sense of game control, I think that's a problem. But right now he's not practicing with the knee injury, so it could just be the Melvin Gordon show.
Yeah, well, I would like that in terms of, I think we could. I'm a lot less scared of. He just seems to have really good tackle breaking abilities and yards after contact. He just is a tough inside runner. And you're right. Yeah, he was limited practice on Tuesday or Wednesday and did not practice today at all. So that wouldn't be a bad thing. I mean, I don't root for injuries or anything, but I wouldn't shed a tear if we didn't see him on Sunday. So
I'm a little concerned about with Reef out. I'm a little concerned about Draymond Jones because they move him around. Not that he's the style of a TJ Watt, but they move him around a lot. He's an edge rusher, and with Reif missing, that concerns me a little bit. You know what I mean? Because I don't know who we're gonna put at right tackle, and I've got a good idea, but I don't really want him blocking Draymond Jones. Draymond Jones is good. He's a good player. He's a solid player.
Yeah, I actually had our injuries, including protecting Joe, and so that was one of my concerns as well.
Right.
So,
what do you think, John?
Yeah, I think just the Denver secondary, I think, is strong, and Joe Burrow said that it's probably the deepest secondary that they're going to play all year, that they have played all year. And Surtain, Ronald Darby, Justin Simmons, they make up with that. Jones, I think, is listed as like a 50-50 chance that he actually plays because he hasn't practiced this week. And they still have Bradley Chubb, who's not been playing really well. But honestly, I look at this Broncos defensive line, and it's almost like the Bengals kind of get a breather compared to recent weeks when they play the Raiders with Yannick and Max Crosby, the Steelers with TJ Watt, the 49ers with Nick Bosa, the Chargers with Joey Bosa and them. Like, it's almost like this Broncos defensive line is not as strong as the recent ones. So, yeah, not having Riley Reef stinks, and who knows who his backup is because Isaiah Prince hasn't practiced this week with an illness. So it could just be Fred Johnson making his 2021 debut out there. But if there was a time for this offensive line to kind of get their footing back, it might be against this week because the Broncos defensive line is definitely their weakest unit on defense.
Right.
Wow.
Okay. Well, that's promising. The other thing is, Denver second in points allowed. They've only given up on average 17.5 points a game. They're ninth on pass defense, 10th on run defense. I mean, this could be just one of those ugly, grind them out kind of games. I mean, we know that Denver has had success when they've been able to limit Bridgewater's passing. So they're going to try to run the ball, and it's real important that we stop the run. But, we're going up against a formidable defense in terms of their numbers.
For sure.
I look at Denver's offense, and it's like it's fully prepared for an Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, but they have Teddy Bridgewater, unfortunately. And nothing against Teddy. I love watching him play, and I really liked him coming out of college, but he is limited as a quarterback, and I think the Bengals should be able to take advantage of that. It's just that Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant, like those are all equally dangerous receivers. Specifically, Jeudy and Sutton are great route runners. So not having Awuzie potentially and having Trey Waynes and Eli Apple and Mike Hilton take on that trio of receivers, it's one of the similarities I see between these two teams. They're really stacked at skill position players, and unfortunately for Denver, they don't really have a quarterback that can always take advantage of that. But if not having Awuzie creates problems for the Bengals secondary, it could lead to Bridgewater having some bright moments in this game.
Yeah, and Wayans, the brief flash we got of him earlier in the year, he looked like a guy who hadn't played in over a year. Right. I mean, he was very hesitant.
Yeah, he was rusty.
So it's and it's not like he's put in tons of practice time and tons of playing time since that brief appearance we had him out there. Didn't he pull a hamstring or he did something that got him out of practice again? But when we did see him, he didn't look fresh or crisp. So he didn't look like.
And I feel like that's why he didn't play last week, because they played him in week 4, I think, initially, and then week 5, and he clearly wasn't prepared to play, and he retore his hamstring or re-aggravated it.
Right.
So I think Zach Taylor said that he could have played feasibly last week, but they didn't feel right sending him out to play after like a handful of practices. So maybe after 2 weeks, he's more prepared to handle on a significant amount of snaps where that doesn't happen like it happened in Green Bay.
Well, if he wants to change the narrative of Bengal fans, this would be the week to do it. I mean, step up, make a big interception, get a pick six, force a fumble, recover a fumble, do something huge for us. And I think everybody's attitude towards him will change. He's got an opportunity here if he plays to do something like that. So anything else you guys have? That's pretty much my list of my negative stuff. I like to get the negative out of the way.
No, that's my negative. That's yeah. No, I think you hit it. I think you hit the nail on the head.
So, John, you want to throw anything else in there? Or you want to jump into the good?
Just real quick, I think I touched on it a little bit. Like their interior offense line is really good. Garrett Bowles and Bobby Massey are also a good tackle tandem. So I don't know how. Like I'm assuming Trey Hendrickson's going to be fine to play. He was practicing on Thursday with his back
Seems
spasms,
like
but
it, yeah.
yeah, but the Bengals defensive line really stepped up without him towards the end of the 49ers game. I don't know if that's sustainable if they don't have him at 100%. And this is, again, a really good offensive line in the Broncos. So if Hendrickson isn't able to be his full self, that comes down to Sam Hubbard and Ogunjobi stepping up against an offensive line that doesn't really allow a lot of pressures.
Right. And Ogunjobi played very, 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 very well, actually, in last week's game. So it was just very encouraging to see him play so well.
Agreed.
In a backup situation.
Yeah. So I'm gonna jump into the good now. And one of the things I had was Hendrickson. I mean, it looks like he's going to play. He was full practice today.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, didn't practice Wednesday, but he was full practice today. I think we get him back. That to me, that's huge news because when we filmed on Sunday, we had no idea. I mean, it's a back, could be a long time. You know, that's an iffy part of your body to injure. So to have him back at full practice today, to me, was a huge positive. So.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And our practice report was not awesome. There was so many DMPs, but a lot of them were more precautionary. It was more like, we're going to give you the day off because we know you're not feeling good, or we know you're not right yet. So I'm hoping a lot of those guys will come back. Okay.
Yeah. We had 4 illness,
Mm-hmm.
4 people out due to illness. So, I mean, that did not practice. So,
and one of the guys who came back was Trey Hopkins. Unfortunately, I don't think Trey Hill is back at practice yet. He was also under illness. So
right.
It could have been that they had their third string center for this game. So if Trey Hopkins is able to play, obviously great against Shelby Harris and Javante Jones. But I think honestly, just this matchup with the Broncos defense, I know the secondary is really talented, but they are one of the most heavy man coverage secondaries and defenses and schemes in the league. And Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense does really well against man coverage. And I think just after last game, if we want to take Zach Taylor's words for face value, if you will, I don't know if that's a situation where he's kind of starting to just kind of give in to just letting Joe take over these games and whatnot. But if this is a week where they decide to lean more on the passing game against a defense that likes to run man coverage against these talented wide receivers, I think that gives them an opportunity to really open up the passing game more, especially because you're not really dealing with a dominant pass rush in the Broncos. So if your offensive line is playing much better than they did against the 49ers, and they run in a defense where it gives you more opportunities to open up the passing game a little bit more, I think that's something that Bengals fans should feel confident in having a better, more consistent passing game this week.
Yeah.
I was hoping that there's 2 things we have to do in this game, and I feel like we can do them. Number one is if we shut down Williams, we can go ahead and force Bridgewater to throw. Their recipe for success is to limit Bridgewater's attempts. That's their goal. And if we can shut down the run, we can take away play action, and we can make Bridgewater throw the ball. And the other thing is, if we can open up the passing game, like John said, if we can get out to an early lead, I mean, for once, let's start the game out correctly. If we can get out to an early lead, we can take away Denver's running game. This team is not built to come back from a big deficit. The Broncos, they're just not. So if we can jump on them early, that can be another huge thing for us. And that's going to require us opening it up. Zach's got to be able to get a little more aggressive in the play calling. I mean, I'm not saying abandon the run, but definitely, like in overtime of the last game, we had opportunities. I mean, we got into the red zone by passing the ball, and then we ran the ball on 2 straight plays and found ourselves settling for a field goal. So, I want to see Zach stay true to his word, and let's scheme and open up the passing game, because this is a game where if we jump out early, we can win. What are your thoughts?
Yeah,
better than me.
I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, obviously you have to have the running game going to keep the defense honest. You have to have it. it has to be there. But I agree with you. And, it's not even just trying to run play action. It's when Joe is back there with an empty backfield and taking the ball out of shotgun. He's almost unmatchable in the NFL right now. So I don't hate the idea of saying like, look, we're passing, we're telling you we're passing, and we're gonna do it, and we're gonna complete passes.
So, John, did you want to add anything there?
Yeah, this is a little bit of a stretch maybe, but this team is coming off of 2 straight losses. The Broncos are coming off of a really emotional win in the recent news of Demaryius Thomas's passing.
Right.
I feel like this team does really well, or at least they have a propensity to surprise us when their backs are kind of against the wall. And kind of like what Sam was saying, in times when not everyone's really buying into what they're doing, that's kind of when they do their best work a little bit. So,
Right.
like I'm not 100% optimistic about this game in their sense, but I do feel like this is a situation where they tend to kind of play their best, because really, like, it's kind of now or nothing at this point. If they lose this game, they drop down to 500. Even in a bad AFC North, like, they're basically playing from behind at this point. And this really does feel like a must-win game, and I think all those factors kind of really bode well for them.
Yeah, I really believe that the loser of this game it basically takes away your wild card chance. I mean, we would still numerically have a shot because, Cleveland's COVID situation, Denver's Baltimore's injury situation, and I don't think Pittsburgh. Like I said, I don't believe in that team. I think that Pittsburgh's going to be on the outside looking in.
They don't even believe in that team.
Yeah, so it's but I think that the loser of this game is severely hampered in playoff chances, especially Denver, who obviously isn't going to catch the Chargers or the Chiefs. So the wild card is their only ticket in, and this would just kill them. So. But this puts us, this is of our next 4 remaining games. I mean, this is a game we could take we could take Baltimore. We could be playing for the North, and winning the North. So I agree with you. I think this is a must-win game. And I think the team knows that.
It definitely is. It's a must-win game for both teams in the AFC and in their divisions as well.
So the last thing I had was I just had Bridgewater quarterback. I think we've talked about this already, but I don't fear Bridgewater. I mean, he's a game manager and stuff, but I don't think he puts the game on his shoulders and wins the game for them. I just don't see him as that kind of a quarterback. That makes me feel better going into this game, that we're not going up we're not going up against an Aaron Rodgers type, or someone who can literally put the team on his shoulders and take him to victory. So,
well, I agree with that for the most part, except that we, not just historically, but even this year still, we are susceptible of the dink and dunk. We're susceptible to the over the middle passes and the screen passes, which is what Bridgewater typically has done throughout his career. So that it scares me a little bit, you know what I mean? In the ability to, run clock and try to get down the field with a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and I'll give you another little bit of that. So I mean, maybe I'm incorrect, but I do fear him because of that. I'd almost rather it was a guy going down the field and trusting in my cornerbacks to knock down the ball. I don't know. That's just me, I guess. John, how about you?
Well, I think a lot of people would be surprised to know that Teddy's average depth of target is barely behind Burrow's this season. So Teddy's at 8.5 and Burrow's at 8.8. And I think that's honestly I think that's a product of just the offense that Teddy's in, because you have Sutton and Judy and Noah Fant. Like, those are vertical threats, and the offense is trying to take advantage of that. But to Sam's point, he hasn't really been effective in throwing down the field, right? So they've been trying to do it, but it hasn't led to a lot of success, hasn't led to a lot of big-time throws. Honestly, I see Teddy and his tight end Noah Fant being very similar to Jimmy G and George Kittle. So if the Bengals don't figure out a way to stop Noah Fant like they did with Kittle, I think Teddy can still have success, throwing some passes over the middle to Noah Fant, who I think is still really talented in his own right. But it will depend on how the game goes, right? Because Jimmy G and the 49ers had game control that entire game and allowed them to have that success. If the Bengals happen to get up early on this one, I think it would press Bridgewater a little bit more, and that's when we could see some of the bad sides of him.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I like Noah Fant. I think he's a good tight end, but Kittle and Kelsey are kind of in a league of their own. I mean, that catch in overtime on that third down where Kittle just stretched out and just got fingertips on it. That's not a catch that Fant makes in overtime. We were just, unlucky enough to have it be Kittle that was there. But I think we can have more success, because look at the success we've had against Andrews, in the game at Baltimore when we faced that caliber tight end. So, and I don't want to get, we had no answer for Kittle last week.
Yeah, but we had all our linebackers though.
Yeah, I know. And that plays into the concern I had being thin at linebacker. They're going to go to Fant a lot because our linebacking core is thin.
Right. Well, why wouldn't you? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right. Well, anybody got anything else good before we throw in our predictions there?
Let's go to predictions. Let's do it.
Predictions. Who wants to lead off? Sam, yours is already published in an article. So we're going to, since you've already put yours in writing, why don't you lead off?
I am actually concerned about Noah Fant. Since we just talked about him, I'm concerned about Fant. I'm concerned about the short game. I'm concerned about Denver controlling the clock. I'm taking the Broncos 26-24.
Okay. John, you want to go or you want me to go?
And it hurts to say it. It hurts to
hear it. So don't.
You know what? I'll go next because Sam already took the pressure off of me. The Bengals have a great tendency of doing exactly the opposite of what I think they're going to do. So for their sake and for everyone who's superstitious out there, I'm going to predict a loss just because this team is just not really consistent right now, and they just make mistakes that not a lot of us can account for, at least previewing these games. So until that changes, I'm just going to assume that it happens even more, and also, predicting a loss usually ends in a win. So I'm going to go 23-21 Broncos.
23-21. All right. We're all kind of in the same score. I'm going to be a homer. I do think we've lost 2. The last time we lost 2, we went into our bye, we came out and we won 2. And so that's what I'm predicting is going to happen. I think that we either are able to limit Williams running and force Bridgewater to pass more, and that will be their demise, or we jump out. So, and Bengals, surprise me. Please do this for me. I mean, I'm pulling out hair. I'm going gray. Let's have a good start. Let's not fumble punts to start the first quarter. Let's get out of the gate quickly, because if we jump out on 3 scores on this team, we're going to take away their whole game plan and their coach. This team's not built to come from behind. So
and then stomp on the throat.
Yeah. And then finish the deal. But I have us 27-23. So I think they get a cheap score late, but we all kind of have us in that, the same score kind of game. So I think we all are sensing the similar thing. So
I think we all think that it's going to be a fairly close game one way or the other.
Yeah, unfortunately, I would love, I really enjoyed the Detroit game. I enjoyed the Steeler game 31-3 at half. It's nice to have one where you're not sitting on the edge of your seat going, come on. And we're coming off 2 weeks where it's nerve-wracking. So I think as Bengal fans, they owe us a week where we're not sitting there with a jar of Tums in our hands, munching them down as we're getting a heartburn. So, John, tell them where they can find all your stuff.
Yeah, you guys can read my work at cincyjungle.com, and you can listen to my voice for the Orange and Black Insider Bengals podcast. We go live every Wednesday night at 8:30 Eastern time. So yeah, check us out there.
Awesome. And Sam, Primetime Sports Talk, tell them where they can find your stuff.
Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at Buy and Sell You. I write for Primetime Sports Talk, like Mark said, which is at Talk Primetime or primetimesportstalk.com.
There you go.
And
All right.
also, Mark is LA Bengals fan on almost every platform. And you can find John also on DNH Sports on YouTube, which is an outstanding show.
Yeah.
It's a really great watch.
Thanks, Sam.
So
we love Daddy-O and Haji, and you do a great job. So and please subscribe. It's all we ask. So just bang that subscribe, hit the bell, subscribe. It's all we ask. Just subscribe to the channel.
You can subscribe.
Yes, and get alerts. Hit the bell. You'll know.
Is there a bell you can hit?
There's a bell you can hit right there in the subscribe thing. You get your notifications. So
and comment down below.
Yeah,
baby. Comment down below.
We had, I think, nearly almost 100 comments on the last one. A lot of people interacting. Sam and I try to jump in as much as possible. So please throw your thoughts down there. Talk to other Bengal fans. Let's talk. Yes, and we will be back after the game. It's an afternoon game, so it'll be a late upload. But we'll be back right after the game. Hopefully, we are blowing the victory horn. It's had a couple weeks off. It is ready to be blown, so we will be doing that. And with that, I'm going to say, "Hoo day, everybody!
Hoo day!
Take care."